And so if you get as excited as we do about a large untapped market, a unique solution that's already been validated with paying customers, and an investment opportunity that includes a seasoned management team and a capital efficient, high return business model, then we'd love to talk with you. But now we'll take questions.
What is like the minimum bill amount for, like, let's say I'm a small business. My electricity bill is $2,500 a month. Is that something feasible for me? I mean, what is my upfront cost?
Yeah, so something that's interesting about this, and one of the, I'd say the key enablers for quick adoption of our system, as opposed to the 6-month sales cycles of the heavyweight stuff, is that it basically scales up or down linearly. So if your energy bill is $2.5 million, it's about as easy to get going as if your energy bill is $2,500. So, and, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head for $2,500, but if you take 100,000 square foot office space, which is going to be about 3 floors in a major office building, it'll cost about $25,000 installed, and then $5,000 a year on an ongoing basis. And it'll save between $15,000 and $50,000 a year in energy savings, just depending. And then it literally scales linearly with that. Sammy.
What's the valuation on the bridge?
On the bridge, 1.7 million pre-money, bringing in 250 coming in the bridge, and then over a $2 million valuation expected on the convertible debt. Although obviously that's going to be relative to the round that we close later this year. Sorry, back there first.
I've seen some motion detectors for lights. Lights and, of course, HVAC are some of the biggest drivers on energy costs.
Yeah.
And we're building smarter boxes with solutions like EnergyWise from Cisco.
That's right.
So lighting and HVAC are probably the two biggest, I would guess. So what is competition or substitutes? What does that do to your projected cash flows in, say, 2 or 3 years, given where you are and where other products might be?
Sure. So first, a related note, one of the really compelling reasons to go after the office space is that universally, relative to home buildings or relative to other commercial buildings, offices show about a third energy consumption for HVAC, lighting, and stuff plugged into walls. And the HVAC and lighting is what people tend to focus on, and they're missing out on all of this. For things like lighting controls, kind of smarter HVAC, nothing that we do precludes those. Those tend to have much longer payback periods. And what we see now is our resellers, who are the same companies that are delivering those solutions, like smart motion sensors, use our system to go in first. A, they get much lower hanging fruit in terms of payback. B, they then have actual data from the client that shows them this is how much you'll save if we install smart lighting systems. Okay. And so they can actually make a financially informed decision, because without it, they're shooting in the dark.
So when can you put it in a house? Because I got my wife and 2 kids staying home, and every time I come home, every freaking light in the house is on.
That's a privilege that we reserve for investors.
Okay.
but I'll let you know that I have them in my house. The value proposition for a home is lower than the value proposition for an office. Okay. Energy waste in an office is about 3 times what you see in a home.
My house.
Okay, fair enough. And there are solutions like this that operate on kind of a much smaller scale without any kind of enterprise kind of collection and integration that are there for the home already. In fact, the home's a very competitive space, which is one of the reasons why we explicitly carve off a niche where we're kind of a virgin provider and can make a big land grab.
Right.
There was someone up here in the...
I'm just asking the lease versus CapEx. If you were going to look at that, and also looking at some grant money for CIP.
Sure. So 2 questions. The first was kind of what about a leasing program instead of a buy up front program? And so my background is in software. I've made my big successes have been in software as a service or ASP style model companies, and I love that model. And we have numerous iterations of our business model that lean heavily on it. We have, though, real capital costs tied up in hardware, right? I mean, it requires capital to build, and if it's not part of our system, it's not very useful hardware. So it's hard to finance that hardware kind of independently. So while I still kind of hope and pray that a day will come in which we can really lead with the kind of entire system as a service model, everything leased. Right now, the financial numbers really make it look like selling it first makes a lot more sense. Now, that's okay because actually most of our resellers have a leasing program already in place. And we have commercial lending partners who are ready to step up and provide essentially a turnkey capital loan on any system that's actually provided anyway.
Can you just talk a little bit more about the disconnect between, potential disconnect between the user and the manager of the property? So I mean, if it is a full service lease and the user is the person using that energy, but the manager is the one bearing the cost. I know you talked a little bit about Class A versus B and C, but I mean, there's a fair amount of full service leases happening across all classes.
That's right, yeah, and there's so there's a real agency problem involved. Who actually owns the paying of the energy bill? And we're kind of biased in Texas because we see many more kind of gross lease type. The building owner just passes through the cost to the tenant, and there's no one really has the ability to do anything about it. Outside of Texas, you see a much more even distribution of tenants who actually pay their own energy bills, or building owners who actually care about reducing energy consumption. At the end of the day, energy is the top operating expense of the building, and we find that even gross lease building owners who pass through their energy savings are extremely motivated to do something about it. Because A, it allows them to provide the same class of space at kind of a lower total cost, or even at the same cost, but they're able to recoup some of that margin anyway. B, our sweet spot, absolutely target segment, are single occupant buildings or owner occupied buildings by far. Because these, and that makes up about 20% of our target market. So these are buildings where there's a single company that's occupying the building. That company absolutely doesn't have a core competence in building management, but does feel the financial pain of an energy bill and does have the ability and authority to push something out to its end users as well. Does that answer your question? Well, excellent. I've clearly done an amazing job of explaining everything, which means I can now get on to drinking beer. So be glad to answer any further questions, though, one-on-one.